Aloha and welcome to the Lemuria Rose Priestess podcast, where we discuss the feminine spiritual path, what it means to be a Sophia Christ initiate, and how we're weaving ancient priestess temple arts into modern day life. I'm your host, Celeste Glus, Oracle of Lemuria Rose Temple, creatrix behind the Sophia School of Feminine Initiatory Arts, and Lemurian Healing Arts Mentor. Let's get into it. Hello, my love, and welcome back. So I wanted to talk today about something that is not so comfortable, but if you're here with me and you're on this platform, you are walking the feminine path, or you're called to explore the feminine path. And one of the foundational aspects of this path is working with our womb, coming back into the body and deeply anchoring into womb wisdom. Now, womb wisdom has grown collectively, like the concept of it. So we don't have to talk about what that means. But I want to share something that I have lived, and I work with a lot of women who are also realizing this, moving through this, and I'm supporting them through it. And that's having vague or fuzzy or unclear visions, memories, insights, intuitive pulses or hits as a sign of childhood womb trauma, or even just generational. So it doesn't mean that you necessarily lived something at a young age. A lot of time, what I see with clients is that they're processing generational trauma. And I actually don't think that I've ever worked with a woman who hasn't had to process this kind of work because of the obvious history and cultural paradigm that we come from. So first and foremost, I know that it's not a comfortable topic, but I do want to kind of soothe into it. If you are feeling a little tightness in your body, I just welcome you to take a breath and notice where that tightness is, and see if you can take a little shoulder roll and wiggle your jaw, and use your breath as a way to open and expand a little bit into this. Because if your body is actually responding in that way, then it's wanting to tell you something. And I think the first thing is just not jumping to a conclusion. I think when women first come into the world of processing generational womb trauma or inner child, or memories that they don't have full recollection of, but they know something happened, they kind of jump to the worst experience or ideas. And I just want to share that you don't really ever have to fully find out the whole story. And that's really important and also very empowering. I think that because our crystalline energy body is coming online, the body is coming back to harmony and stability and sort of a foundational sense of healing, if you will, at a much quicker pace. So my point is, I work with a lot of women who don't know what happened, who don't know if anything ever happened, but they do have memories. And when we tune in, there is definitely something that happened, and they don't exactly know what happened, but we have to remember that our body protects us from the things that we don't necessarily need to know. So just because logically you don't remember, or when we tune in, you don't know the full story, doesn't mean that that energy is not living in your body, or it's not living in your energy field. And that's really what I want to discuss today. I want to empower you. If you do have vague visions or vague memories, or actually you have recollection, you do remember something happening, or you know very well the history of your mother line, I want to just first empower you in saying that, again, the crystalline energy body is online, and we get to move quicker through the heaviness of the things that we're carrying. Okay. And then number two, that memory is living in your energy field. And the longer we repress it, the longer we hold off on attending to it or looking towards it and just kind of hoping that it wasn't real or it's not important or whatever the case may be, it gets denser throughout time. So what I find is that in younger women, there's not as much physical repression, and it doesn't ripple out into so much of like illness or depletion of vital force or cutting off of their heart field. But as women get older into their 30s, 40s, and definitely by menopause, if this vision or this memory or this womb trauma hasn't been at least attended to and looked at, then the repercussions start to become a little heavier. And some of the normal things that I see is, beyond, we're talking about beyond irregularities of the menstrual cycle. Okay. I'm talking about like parts of your body going numb, or like you literally feel like your voice, it's not even just shut down. You don't even have the ability to like speak about the things that you need to say. There are parts of your, let's call it your arms or your legs or your heart or your chest, that are either freezing or actually starting to ache. So physical pain, stagnation, even things like arthritis. Just, you want to think of energy accumulation and stagnation in the body. And what we do inside the womb healing sessions is that we tune into how that energy is living in your body, meaning where is it taking up space? Sometimes it's in your energy field. Sometimes it's in an actual physical space of your body. Sometimes it's in the heart. Sometimes it's in the womb. Like sometimes it's in your bones. So it could live in different places depending on what it's connected to. And then what we do is we work through that experience. We work through any of the emotions that are still living inside of you, often working through the different layers, because initially it tends to be rage and anger and frustration. And then there's like this sensation of perhaps freezing or numbing or just shutting down. And then there's this whole other layer that comes into it, which is just sadness or grief or shame or guilt. Like there's just so many different layers. And so we get to work through it all. We get to work with gentle modalities like sound and gentle movement. And it's quite fascinating to see how quickly the body responds. So again, this is my intention, is to really empower you in not letting these visions or these vague memories just kind of linger in your life like so many women do. They just have this vision that continuously comes up for them, and they don't really turn towards it because beyond it being scary, nobody really wants to reveal, or find out things that are very difficult for our emotional system. But again, I want you to know that when these memories are not looked at and processed, they do have long-term physical repercussions. And the idea is really to get to this work before you do menopause, before you go through the menopause, because once you hit menopause, it's a different time of life where you're really just clearing out the final aspects of your psyche and your consciousness and your life experience to go into a whole new initiatory phase of the feminine. So again, I just wanted to empower you. If you do have it, I want you to know that, the majority of women in the world, at least almost 99% of women that I work with, have had to at some point work through this. So I want you to know that you're not alone, and you may be experiencing physical symptoms that can be easily moved through with just one or a few womb healing sessions. So what do these physical symptoms look like? So you're like, well, maybe, I don't know, I have a vision, or I had some dreams, or I get a feeling, but I don't really know. So one of the blogs that I wrote a while back is on womb stagnation. So the blog website is divinefeminineascension.com. And there's a whole blog on symptoms of womb stagnation. And typically what happens is if there's trauma in the womb, then there's a stagnation in the energetic container of the womb. And as it builds up, that stagnation ripples out into different parts of your body. So I don't have a full list in front of me right now, but things I could think of and that are very, very common are, of course, extremely irregular, painful, or lost periods. The heart is cut off, meaning you literally are cut off from the emotional wisdom of your heart, your ability to love yourself, love life, love period. The voice is a huge center that normally, if there's womb trauma within a session or 2 or 3, we end up working on the voice, because that's one of the biggest things that women are needing to turn on after experiencing anything, any ruptures, any stagnation in the womb. And an inability to connect, to really tune into the body wisdom. So women that are hyper logical, sort of like that energy of the mind that's just like, I got to control it all. I got to keep doing things mentally. I don't have time to drop into my body. I don't even know what dropping into my body means. Those kinds of things, that sort of type A personality, but to a very big extreme, to the point that you're not tuned into your natural rhythms as a woman. Another symptom is you constantly feel a wall between your sensuality or your intimate relationships, meaning physical, intimate partnership, and your ability to really like open and express and really tap into that primal, sensual, raw power of the feminine. So if there's just like weird blockages within your root, your sacral, and even your solar plexus that you have noticed, like, why do I constantly feel like the foundations of my life, aka root chakra, are constantly like, in explosive situations, right? Or kind of experiencing hurricanes, meaning they're just turbulent. There's never stability. It doesn't feel good to me. Or when we talk about the sacral chakra, why does it feel like I'm numb, or I'm freezing, or I get really sleepy when my partner wants to get intimate with me, or there's just weird sensations, or my partner always says that something is weird or off, but I don't really know what it is. So that's telling you that there's an energetic boundary, or there's an energetic wall up in that sacral chakra. And then in terms of the solar plexus, just your ability to stand in your light, to express, to move through the world. If you constantly feel blocked by your ability to be creative and be seen by other people, and just really express yourself, then it's something to just consider. Again, I'm speaking specifically to women who are questioning, or perhaps have memories, visions, vague recollections of perhaps something happening in their young childhood, or maybe you know that you experienced something and you just haven't moved through it. Or you know that your mother line has moved through things and you're seeing those repercussions in your life. I want to empower you. I want you to know that the work that I do with womb sessions is very gentle. It's also very powerful. So You don't have to be rolling around on the floor and doing all these things that feel just like really vulnerable. It's actually it's quite settling to the nervous system, and it's also just really soothing. So because we work with breath and sound, and I'm working with quantum energy the whole time, it tends to be quite soothing is the word. You are able to open up that can of worms, so to speak, without being consumed by it. So you can feel safe in the process. And we move one step at a time. So if this is something that you're curious about, but you're like, I don't really want to open that door yet, I want you to know that there's certain steps that I take to understand how deep we can go. So one type of woman can go into a session and have a full from A to Z experience and not have to see me again. And then there's another type of woman who is needing more support because she doesn't want to do everything at once. And maybe she's in a partnership and she knows that things are coming up that are tied to this. So she's also working on her heart and her voice and her intimacy and her ability to be seen and be vulnerable. So there's just so many fractals that come with moving through the womb healing journey. And it's so funny because I know I haven't spoken about this in a long time, but anytime I anchor anything related to crystalline energy, because right now we're working on the Lemurian Healing Arts training, anytime I'm working with those realms, which are like, celestial, crystalline, heavenly realms, always the Dark Mother comes to me and she kind of just stands right next to me, like right over my shoulder. And I just know and I feel her presence, and she's constantly reminding, like, as you anchor the higher realms, remember to root down and really return to the darkness. And I want you to know that behind whatever your experiences are, she is there to remind you that whatever you lived and whatever you experienced was so that you can come back to a darker, more fertile inner darkness. So if you came into this lifetime with this kind of work or this kind of soul contract that you decided to move through, just understand that it's for a reason. And when you move through it, what you find is that you can literally compost the soil of your body. You become more fertile, quote unquote, energetically. And I hope that gives more reason to look towards the thing that you may be looking away from. And I just want to share too that it's beautiful to see women move through the whole process and then see them on the other side, where all of a sudden they no longer have anxiety, or they reach much deeper, intimate expression with their partner, or their voice begins to turn on and they finally feel for the first time in their life that not only can they speak up for what they need to speak up, but they're actually received. Because when your voice is shut down, it's not just that you aren't able to speak, it's that people literally cannot even see you. They can't hear you. They can't receive what you're trying to say. So it's just so profound to see women work through this stuff and see them get to the other side of it, liberated, expressed, more sensual, more permission to explore what it means to be fully grounded and embodied in their unique physical expression. Meaning they don't have to hide behind a facade, or they don't have to take on, because what happens with women a lot of times with womb trauma is that they take on personalities, or they take on like mental constructs or things that they just learned, whether it is from their mother or from their immediate culture. So you just naturally take on the things around you as a form of safety mechanism, because you see that those things works for other people, quote unquote. You don't really know that. And so the parts of you that are not really you begin to shed. And to see that in women is so beautiful, because they start to anchor into their whole path begins to change. They realize maybe they want to take on a new creative project, or they find a new hobby, or they have a willingness to get on with a new job, or all of a sudden they have had relationship issues their entire life, and then all of a sudden there's just like ease and peace and magnetism and primal power within their relationship. So if this is you, I encourage you to open the door and get curious about what your visions are, what has been tapping you in your shoulder, or what your mother lineage has been carrying for you as your medicine at this time, so that you can compost it and come around to the other side. So my one-on-one sessions, I'll put the link below, and they are done via Zoom and usually booked out about 2 weeks in advance. So I hope this has helped you. And if you have any questions, you can DM me on Instagram. Okay? Until next time. Mwah. A reminder that this year in December, I am leading a group alongside a Lemurian sister to the sacred land of Egypt. So if you've ever been called by this beautiful area in the world, this sacred ancient Atlantis portal, I do welcome you to check out the webpage below and see our itinerary. We will be on a private boat. We'll have our chef. We'll have security with us the whole time. And we'll be moving up the Nile River, visiting so many amazing temples. And we have 2 private pyramid visits, which means it will just be our group inside those 2 temples. And I'm really excited because one of them is a very, very ancient site, completely different than all of the rest of the temple. And it also serves as a water temple, which is very near and dear to my heart and the work that we do here in Lemuria Rose Temple. So again, if you have been called to visit Egypt, this is a private pilgrimage up to, I think we have like a few spots left. I think 11 in total. So it's a pretty small group. It's going to be intimate. We'll be doing ceremony. We'll be doing chants. We'll be doing some land and body activations. So really beautiful time right before the winter solstice, which will really prepare our physical and spiritual bodies for the portal of resurrection that happens every winter solstice. Okay, I will leave that website and all the details below. Mwah. Some land and body activations. So really beautiful time right before the winter solstice, which will really prepare our physical and spiritual bodies for the portal of resurrection that happens every winter solstice. Okay, I will leave that website and all the details below. Mwah. Some land and body activations. So really beautiful time right before the winter solstice, which will really prepare our physical and spiritual bodies for the portal of resurrection that happens every winter solstice.